welcome along to Man in the Mirror. It's Hayden Williams here, and as always, I like to bring you interesting guests from the world of grooming, fragrance, skincare, and people that I meet along the way. And this week, my guest is Graham Clarke, who is the CEO of Murdock London. Good morning, Graham. How are you?
Good morning. Good morning, Hayden. I'm very good, thank you. Very good. I was going to say good morning, and it's a beautiful sunny day, but
Well, yeah, yeah.
It's a bit damp.
It's the summer that's not quite happened so far, isn't it?
Yeah.
I was very lucky. We had an early week away. Went to Portugal last week, and it was
Nice.
it was sun, cloudless sky and 30 degrees. So I feel like I've had my had a decent fill of solar energy and feel refreshed. But yeah, I'm well aware that it was pouring with rain all week last week, and it was kind of miserable. But
It was pretty
maybe
dire.
the good weather will come.
Yeah. It
And
will
we
do. It will do.
and not to kind of lock this in a specific time, but we've also had a weekend of sporting disappointment, shall we say, with England losing in the final of the
Fairly,
Euros.
yeah. I know. I promised myself I wouldn't get drawn into
I
a
know.
conversation on football because it's not really my
Is it your
thing.
bag?
Kind of is, kind of isn't really.
Yeah,
Yeah. I grew up in a household with football at the very heart of it. My dad actually worked
really.
my dad worked for Crystal Palace,
Did
so.
he?
Yes, he did.
What did
Yeah,
he do?
yeah. He was kind of in sales and marketing for them. So it was a long time ago. It was when they first got to the FA Cup back in '91, I think it was. So
Like Steve
yeah.
Copp? Was it Steve Coppell era?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was. Yeah, absolutely. Well
Well, it's
done. Look
funny.
at you.
Thank you. There's a few of these facts that are in the back of my head. Well, because my son Charlie is, we live fairly close to Crystal Palace, so he's a Palace fan, much to my shame and disappointment. Because I hoped I'd raised another. Oh, now we're getting into football chat, aren't we? I'm an Arsenal fan, and,
Well,
and he I started, took him to a few games, and he became a junior gunner and all that stuff. And then a few years ago, no, yeah, 4 or 5 years ago, he said, Dad, I think I'm going to change allegiance. And I'm sure he didn't say allegiance, but I'm going to support Crystal Palace because we get the chance to go to more games. And I was like, you can't change teams. And he's like, why not? I was like, well, I don't really. I don't really know. You just can't. But of
exactly.
course you can. And all him and his mates go to the games, and it's a local ground that Selhurst Park's not far from us, and it is a great place to go and see
Yeah.
football. But
Yeah.
anyway,
It is a great place. It is a
so
great
you
place.
have
But
a sort
anyway,
of kind of passing cursory interest now at
I
arm's length, is it?
Yeah, I keep it at a distance, to be honest with you. But this is the second conversation I've had around the Euro result from last night. So
It's
yeah,
funny though,
really
and
good.
it's fairly obvious, but it just, I mean, particularly as we're talking about barbershops and things like that, it's funny how it's just one of those go-to kind of social lubricants, isn't it? The football, you just kind of know that everyone, no matter how engaged or less engaged you are, at least most people have an opinion of sorts, don't they? Or could say something.
Exactly. Yeah.
But anyway, look, so aside from the disappointing result last night, so I mentioned in the introduction you being CEO and the fact that we've talked to Miles Wood Smith before on the podcast a few seasons ago from Murdoch, and I make no apology for revisiting a brand that I love very much and use daily anyway. But you're CEO at the company, and you've been there. How long have you been there now?
A little over 2 years now,
Yeah,
as CEO. Yeah, so it's been a great journey actually, and barbering and hair are really they're my thing. I've been in the industry for. I was going to say a little longer than I care to mention, to be honest with you. But it's about 30 years, I think, in the industry. I would
well,
say
let's
roughly.
rewind a little bit then. So what took you on this path to Murdoch and this role? Was that something you'd envisage at the beginning of your career? What were you doing at first?
No, well, I actually started off in retail.
Did you?
Yeah. So I started off. I was when I was younger, let's say, I started off as an associate working in Harrods, so I managed to run the gamut of several different kind of types of product and retail, and I absolutely I loved it. I loved it.
Was that quite an
I
intentional thing, Graham, of heading? Was retail something that appealed to you, or did you kind of fall into it?
Not, I mean, not particularly. I just sort of fell in. I just sort of fell into it, really. I mean, I think at one point when I was about 8 years old, I said I wanted to be a priest, and then that changed quite quickly. Yeah. And then,
I could
and
see you in
then,
the robes.
yeah. Well, then I kind of got looped into. It was kind of like just a summer job. I started earning some cash at a local hospital, actually, as a kind of a medical records assistant.
Right.
Back in the day when the medical records department was like a huge library of files of people's lives and
And it'd all
ailments
be
and whatnot.
done, obviously, files and paper and pen and tangible, real bits of
Exactly.
paper,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. Actual physical stuff.
Yeah.
So, and I actually earned a little bit of cash then, and I was like, oh, I actually quite like this. And I was meant to then go on to college, and was meant to be the kid that went off to university. But I quite liked earning. And then I
Yeah.
discovered that actually I was talking to a friend, which often happens, who kind of took the same path. And he's like, well, I'm working at this shoe shop actually, and I'm earning like loads of money and commission and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, right, okay, that's me. I'm on to that. So I did that for a little while. Footwear is not really my thing. I mean, I love footwear, but it's not really what I wanted to be selling for the rest of my life. It can be, I think, quite dull after a certain point. I
Is
mean,
it
really.
might sound obvious, but is it a? I don't know that I'd want to be spending all that time close to people's feet. Is that what you? You know, like, do people have some bad hygiene and smelly feet? Is that a
But
thing or not?
I mean, yeah, it is. It is. It really is. It really is. Particularly, when they've been on their feet all day in
Yeah,
trainers,
in the
and
summer. Oh my
yeah,
goodness.
yeah. So it's quite, it's very interesting. But I mean, you could say the same for anyone in the industry who is, bordering on that kind of intimate care, like so
Yes.
and it's quite interesting. So anyway, I'll go back to the story and we'll remove the intimate care thing, right? So
Sustainable.
so so I started off in Harrods, like I said, and I ended up one day just working as an associate for a makeup counter. Never done that before. Never put like makeup or anything on anyone. Like never,
Yeah.
including myself, I might add. Right.
Yeah.
So and I absolutely loved the experience.
Did you?
Yeah. I absolutely loved it. And I suddenly realized that I could really spend a lot of time talking up the good things, the good features about every woman that I met at the time, and they would spend an awful lot of money. And my first sale was like 450 quid, and we're talking a while ago, folks. It was like,
Yeah.
it was like 90s, so
Yeah.
it was a
Yeah.
good sale.
So you obviously
Um,
had the gift of the gab and the charm to kind of and the ability to sell.
Yeah, and I think the other thing about it as well, which ties in quite nicely with kind of some of the subjects that I've been talking about recently, is actually watching people walk away after spending a considerable amount of money and smiling.
Yes.
Actually
Yeah.
taking joy from that experience, which is important.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're seeing a sort of tangible result, and you've changed someone's day or something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and aside from the cash element, aside from the commission and
Yeah.
how much you earn, actually putting smiles on everyone's faces that you come into contact with is
Mm.
a really, 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 I think, well, for me, it's so important, and that's
Yeah.
that's why I've stayed in the industry, because I could have actually, I wanted to move across into fashion, but that seemed way too shallow.
Mm.
And then I moved into the world which could be perceived as being relatively shallow, which was skincare and color cosmetics and then hair care and
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 you
did it.
progressed through those different areas and different companies and sort of grew
Yeah,
your
through the different media.
career.
So
Yeah.
after Harrods, I worked for actually the brand that I was temporarily working for. I ended up working for them,
Mm.
for a while. Then I moved across to Space NK, which
Okay.
some of us may know, I
Yeah.
think, and love.
Yeah.
And I was with Space NK for about 11 years, I think.
Goodness.
And it was a great experience. I got to
Yeah.
work quite closely with the founder, and so it was absolutely
Were you
fantastic.
in stores, Graham, or were you sort of head office role?
The first half I was in stores, and then I
Mm.
moved into the office. I don't know, towards the latter part of my career, basically,
Mm.
and then at that point and at that stage in the business history, you were kind of waiting for someone to move on, shall we say? I was just about to say
Create
die then, but
space.
you
Yeah.
know what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. Which is the gift and the curse of having having a really popular brand like Space
Yeah.
NK is
People
no
want
one
to.
wants to move. Yeah, and they want
Yeah.
to be
Yeah.
there. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So what was it that took you to Murdoch? What did you see as the challenge there with that role?
So it was born out of a conversation. So at the time before I started with Murdoch, I was actually working for an aesthetic skincare brand
Mm.
that specialised in peels and one thing and another. And I was having a conversation with a friend of mine who's also one of my business mentors, or has been, and he just asked me what I thought of the brand, and I was like, I love that brand, absolutely love it. I'd already been a customer
Yeah.
anyway. I'd had my hair cut there in Covent Garden, and I purchased products, so I already knew the brand anyway. So and he said, well, I think there might be an opportunity. Would you like me to connect you? And I was like, well, yeah,
Mm.
absolutely,
Mm.
absolutely. So yeah, so here I am, really. And it was quite a journey in the lead up to that, because I got to sample throughout my career every aspect that I'm now kind of leading and
Yes.
guiding and directing now. So it's
And
fascinating.
that's so important, isn't it, to have experience of the sales floor and the various functions, because then you can bring all of that together and be able to drive the business, but with the
Exactly.
knowledge of what it's like to sell the stuff and
Yeah.
work there.
Yeah, and the product journey as well. Like having that experience, which I did.
Yes.
I was lucky enough to work and live in Australia for like nearly 4 years. And at that time, as part of the role I was in, we were running a contract manufacturing
Right.
business. And that was fascinating to me, and it was absolutely fascinating. And it was something that I kind of, didn't really kind of tick all my boxes for a career move, but it was kind
Mm.
of like, it was fascinating to me and quite interesting. And the science behind it. So I
Yeah.
kind of just locked it away and didn't even think about it. And then, of
Yeah.
course, I joined Murdoch, and the one thing, that that is, aside from our individual stores, the one thing that is the real linchpin of the brand is the product. So
Yes.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So you've ended up at this brand that's got, as you say, these sort of twin elements of the barbering services, but also a fantastic product line. So it must have been, yeah, it sort of brings all of these things together in one role. What
Yeah,
did you want to, what did you identify? What did you want to do with Murdoch?
there is. You know what? Yeah, I think it's about keeping the brand going, and
Yes.
that sounds really weak in response, but it's almost about keeping it going, but ensuring that it's updating. So
Yeah.
you can't just sit and go, oh, well, those five hair care products work really well. We'll just sit and hope for the best that everyone, our loyal fans will
Continues to
just
buy
keep
them.
coming back. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. You've got to, it's interesting, particularly in men's grooming. Guys do love when they find a product that they love, they tend to stick with that product,
Yes.
which can sometimes again be the gift and the curse. You know what I mean?
Mm.
It's kind of like, yeah, this is great, but
How
also
do you migrate people to new things? And
exactly,
yeah.
exactly, yeah. So it's actually enabling innovation, but also kind of just we needed a bit of a check on the brand messaging and the brand direction and everything else. So,
Mm.
you know, that was kind of like my first few steps were, okay, so how many people know about us? Who knows about us? How do we really really shout from the rooftops that this is an amazing brand and the product really really does what it says it's going to do, you
Mm.
know? And I think, but I mean, there's any number of CEOs in this industry that will say exactly what I've just said, but it is, you know, it is vitally important to have a little bit of a sense of check and figure out, actually, are people aware of the brand? How do we, you know,
Mm.
how do we bring them in? And are we actually speaking to every part or every every human being out there, right, who's
Mm.
potentially interested in what we do? So yeah,
Yeah.
so that's yeah. That was a big
And you
journey.
do, and we've spoken before, but there is that great USP, I suppose, at Murdoch, in that you can say things are barber approved, because and then the thing that brings the two sides of it together, the product and the services, are that genuinely these are the products that the barbers are using in the stores, and
Yeah.
they wouldn't use it. Clearly, they wouldn't use it if it didn't work. And so that I always find that quite comforting, and you know, it's a kind of brand of quality, isn't it? If they're prepared to use it and they can explain the efficacy and the benefits to me when I'm sitting in the chair, that works.
And to me, you know, that message that, but which we, you know, which we are now shouting about, Barber
Mm.
approved, you know, and British made. However
Yes.
you want to look at that second part, I don't, you know, is up to anyone. But
Mm.
the first part, the Barber approved, we didn't really talk about it.
Mm.
And it was one thing that I identified, probably about 9 months in. That was like, well, people trust their barbers.
Yeah.
And we actually, you know, when a product is close to being, you know, to being manufactured to go on the shelves, either in the stores or with our trade partners globally, it's almost about, okay, so we should be telling everyone this has been Barber approved, by the way, and it's actually Barber approved. It wasn't, you know, all built in a, you know, in a lab somewhere, and someone's ticked a lot of boxes to say, yeah, that works, that works, that works, and then, you know, this has actually been tested by barbers before it hits the market, you know. And we have our fair share of products that don't pass the grade that we go back to the drawing board on as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, look, we'll return to talk much more about Murdoch London, but I love to find out about products that my guests use in their daily routines, and I'm particularly intrigued by yours, Graham, because I'm sure over your career, you know, you've got to experience lots of products and obviously work with lots of different brands. So, what does your morning and evening routine look like?
How long is this podcast? Remind me.
3 hours. Yeah.
So, all right, we'll try. I'll try and pare it down a little bit. So, my morning routine, my morning routine is probably on the heavy side in comparison to a lot of guys out there. I don't know, actually. I think the world of
Yeah.
grooming and skincare is kind of taken such a
It's all
change, right?
relative.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So I actually use a lot of products from my previous brand because they're very high end aesthetic ingredients and products, perfect for anti-aging. Because, you know, guys age too, you know, their skin does
Yeah.
age, so it's important to me. So I actually cleanse my skin twice. And they're
Mm.
both Image Skincare. So Image Skincare is the brand that I used to work for, and the products that I continue to use because I really believe in them. So
Mm.
Image Skincare, there is a now you might press me for the names, and I might struggle with them, to be honest with you, because I've just got so used to using them that I don't really, you know.
That's all
One
right.
is a foaming cleanser, and the other one is kind of like a cream cleanser that does foam, and they are absolutely amazing. Image Skincare. That's kind of, you know, if anyone wants to go and have a look, they can go and have a look. They're absolutely
Right.
fantastic. Then I would normally shave, and of course, because one of the best shaving creams in the industry and globally is the Murdock London shaving cream. It's absolutely amazing, and we have
Of course.
fans. We have
Yeah.
fans, male and female, that basically use our. I mean, the ladies don't tend not to use it on their face. But elsewhere, I don't think I need to explain any more than that. But honestly, the shaving cream is
I got you. I got you.
yeah, good. It's absolutely phenomenal. The shave cream. It's really, really good. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So then,
And what sort of blade do you
um,
use? A single blade, or what do you use? Or
no, I'm not. Well, that's where I'm not a traditionalist. So I tend to use like
mm,
a what are they called? The five blade thingies. The Mac 5. Is it a Mac 5? I don't know
yeah,
what it.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, what you know, whatever is available. I should, you know, my now my barbers will probably kill me for not saying, "Oh no, you should be using a, you know, a safety razor or a blah blah blah." But I always think whatever you feel most comfortable with, and I just
Yes.
yeah, and when you're also, I mean, this goes back to loyalty, brand loyalty, right? When you're used to using something
Yeah.
over the years, you just kind of tend to carry on using it because you trust it. I actually use a Bolin Webb razor, and then I have my whatever it is, Gillette Mac 5 or whatever blades on top, because the Bolin Webb razor is so perfectly designed and it's almost weightless. It's
So is that
such a
one?
good
Is that
razor.
the base then, and you just put the Gillette blades in
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
Yeah. But you honestly, you have to experience it. It's so, their razors are absolutely amazing. Anyway, so that's
Mm.
that. Um, then I normally just throw myself in the shower and use black tea
Yes,
hair body wash. Right? I mean, why wouldn't you? Because it's amazing.
it is amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
I used the shampoo and the body wash this morning. I'm
There you
smelling
are.
black tea all over. Beautiful. It's
Fantastic.
good stuff.
Love it. No, I love it. I love the fragrance. I really, really do.
Oh, the
Then
iconic Murdock fragrance, isn't it? Really, black
yeah,
tea.
it is. Though, well, funny enough, that and our patchouli
Yeah,
colognes are they're the two biggies I would say, and then we've got some with Vetiver and Avalon, and then a newbie Napier as well, which is which has just come back into the fold, which is
yeah.
quite interesting.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
What's the smell of Napier?
So Napier is kind of amber. It's a little bit greener, so it's kind
Mm,
of it kind of feels to me a bit like a crossover from Vetiver. Vetiver's a little bit heavy and green.
yeah.
Napier is a little bit lighter. It's it's kind of green but warm, which is quite unusual for a cologne, actually.
Mm, mm,
And I absolutely love it. It's perfect for this time of year, so it's just a little bit lighter than some of our other colognes. But I actually wear two, so
okay. What a bit of layering. Mm,
yeah. So I actually wear Vetiver and Napier. I just finish with a little bit of Napier because just softens the Vetiver down. Sometimes the Vetiver can be a little bit powerful,
yeah.
and it just brings it down a little bit, but it kind of rounds it quite nicely, and it's not as spiky and green. It's more kind of rounded and just amazing. Anyway.
Fabulous. Yeah.
So yeah, and then I go into my full skincare routine after the shower. So
Right.
and this full skincare routine is hyaluronic acid from Korea.
Oh yeah.
I was just gonna say North Korea. It's
North
not North
Korea.
Korea. It's not North
They
Korea.
do the
Just so
best stuff.
we're
They just don't let it out. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, from Korea, and it's a triple weight. You can get it. You can get it at most good retailers, but also one retailer beginning with the two letters AMZ. So I
Got
don't know
you.
if I can.
Got you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Say
If
it.
we can mention
Put more.
Amazon, as I call it.
Put more money in Jeff Bezos's pocket.
I know. All right,
Yeah.
okay. Now I feel guilty.
No, no,
Now
no.
I feel guilty.
Look, it's where we all shop, isn't it? It's
It is for
easiest thing.
convenience.
Yeah.
So that's very good. Then an eye cream so I should say to everyone listening and watching or whatever they're doing that I am currently testing, and when we test for future products, we tend to look at core benchmarks in the industry.
Yeah.
So I've managed to find myself a really, really good eye cream by a brand called Horus.
Yes. French brand.
And
Mm.
they're okay.
Mm.
Um, so I've been testing their eye cream, which is
Yep.
which they claim is like a like an espresso
Hmm.
of an eye cream, which is well, and it's okay. Yeah, yeah, it's pretty good. Keeps my eyes quite moisturised and looking all right.
They do some. Have you seen their blue eye patches? Those kind of
Yeah, I have.
those things. What do you call them? Things that sit under the. What they called? Eye masks. Eye
Yeah,
masks.
yeah, the eye
Yeah.
mask. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The little
Yeah.
the
Makes you
strips.
look
Yeah,
like a
yeah,
sort
yeah.
of American footballer or something.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
I use I use like a clinical version of those
Do you?
for my eyes. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Again from Image skincare
Mm.
because I mean, then I use another product which is like a cross between a serum and a moisturizer, and I just take it's like half a pump of it's like a primer, and it
Hmm.
just makes my skin look relatively matte and kind of flawless, if you like.
Yeah.
If we want
Yeah.
to go down that route, so
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
that's actually probably that's my routine. Those last two products are Image Skincare again because I'm a big fan, right?
Yeah.
As soon as we, as in Murdoch, start producing skincare, I will of course move straight over and
Of
be
course you
as
will.
loyal as anything. Yeah.
And what about hair care, Graham? What do you
Hair
put in your
care.
hair?
Hair care. What do I put in my hair? So it's all going to be Murdoch, by the way.
Hmm.
No surprises, right?
No.
So I tend to go in. So I like it to spray in a little bit of texture. So
Yep.
I use our sea salt spray.
It's great.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
It really is just the absolute business. So I use a small amount of the texture sea salt spray just to give it a bit of texture and blow dry that through, and then I finish with texture paste,
Mm.
which went away for a little while. Is now back.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's absolutely fantastic. And you know what? I put it in my hair, and I do not touch my hair all day. It stays exactly where I left it. It's all good. Like it's not a toupee or anything. So we're good. We're good. We're good.
Just
But
glue,
that's
it
it.
stays there fine.
Yeah, 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 exactly. Honestly, it doesn't move. I don't even have to think about it. But the thing about our products is that you can actually run your hands through,
Yeah,
run your
it's not
fingers through
some
your hair.
solid lump, is it?
Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
exactly. Because some of those styling products can be really just
Mm.
too heavy and weighty and
Mm.
sticky and awful. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And texture paste am I right in thinking that sort of medium hold?
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
it's medium hold for any hairstyle that is slightly textured.
Mm.
If you want to pick out that texture, it's really really good because it will grab hold and really really give some definition to it as
Mm.
well. Without it being crunchy and heavy.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, you mentioned developing skincare and new things for the brand. So, there must be this challenge around trying to, well, create new products and or maybe sort of build out the retail estate. What's next for Murdoch, do you think? Are you going to try both those things, or is one more important than the other right now?
We're looking at so much. We
Are
really,
you?
really are. So yeah, it's about innovation, but not for the sake of innovation, right? Because
Mm.
I think a lot of brands can fall foul of that. For us, we needed to. When I joined, you asked me earlier, actually. What did I identify?
Mm.
That needed to change, and I was like, well. We have one shampoo and we have one conditioner, and but we're a barber brand, so and we're not answering all of those needs. So
Yep.
in the future, and not too far along, we'll be introducing some new shampoos, new conditioners for specific types of hair and or scalp.
Yep.
More on that to come, and then really looking at the next innovations in our world, and that could be honestly, the list is endless. It could be supplements,
Yeah.
which are a big
It's a big
thing
thing.
now,
Mm.
but
Mm.
actually we can look at kind of focused supplements. I mean, I'm taking supplements from a brand called Heights at the moment, and they're
Yes, I know Heights. Yeah.
Heights, yeah, and honestly, they have the condition of my hair, my nails, everything has
Really?
just
Really? That's
yeah, so
interesting.
much better. Yeah, 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 so much better. So kind of looking at that kind of area, but
Yep.
also kind of keeping everything reasonably traditional, because Murdock is quite a traditional brand at the same time,
Yeah.
but really building that out. Now we did have a skincare range, a very small one. Um, it kind of wasn't meaningful enough, I don't think, for us to
Mm.
really make a big impression. So we're starting again with that, and we're working on looking at skincare in
Mm.
the coming time.
Yeah.
I don't want
And
to put a
it's
date on it because people will expect it, and you
yeah,
kind
yeah,
of,
you know,
yeah, yeah,
and it takes its own sweet time, I guess, some of these things to properly develop and manufacture. And I'm
absolutely,
sure most of the listeners are aware, but Murdock London is a brand that sells its products around the world, right?
yeah,
It's not just limited
yeah.
to the UK.
No, absolutely. From North America, Australia, um, Southeast Asia, Europe. Is there anywhere else left? Canada soon. And the Nordics now. We just opened in the Nordics. So yeah, it's pretty. It's a pretty impressive brand with a lot of a lot of spread kind of globally. I mean, I'd love
Yeah.
South America and China, so both those markets are super tricky to get into with their local regulation and
Mm.
whatnot. So it's quite interesting from that perspective.
And does it entail you doing a lot of international travel as well to go and see suppliers and
Yes,
retailers
it
and stuff?
does. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Is
Yes, it
that a part
does.
of the
Yeah.
world you like? Do you like doing that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I do. I mean, and also, you know what? I'm a huge fan of keeping my feet firmly on the ground. I said this in another podcast that I did.
Mm.
It's really important that you know and understand, almost sometimes physically, the markets that you're working in, and and
Yeah.
what's happening. So, and you can now do that from a distance. That's fine. That can work. But actually, being on the ground and meeting with the buyers
Yeah.
and getting that first hand knowledge of the local markets is really, really important. So
Yeah.
I do it, and I do enjoy it. It gets me out of London.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I mean, we could apply that to any walk of life, couldn't you? But that sort of we do all these things virtually now. But I would imagine actually visiting a market, as you say, feet on the ground and boots on the ground, that kind of human connection, finding out similarities or just connecting with people, that must give dividend. Must work really well for the brand and
It's
by doing that.
yeah, and also, you know what, we talk a lot about prospecting, right?
Mm,
Looking for new trade partners and all the rest of it. But you're only really, 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 when you actually physically connect is when it really works. Some people might think of that as quite old fashioned, but really it isn't until you make that physical connection,
yeah,
and you meet someone face to face. This medium is fantastic, by the way. Like the fact that we're doing so much now on camera and
mm,
virtually is amazing. So at least we have that to thank COVID for, I guess.
yeah,
But actually, that physical connection is big, and actually, that's in my leadership style. We have gone more kind of office first as a brand, as opposed
yeah,
to, we still kind of hybrid, but we prefer our folk in, because we're very connective business as part of a very connective industry. So
yeah,
it makes
yeah.
sense, really. Yeah, yeah,
Well, it was interesting. I mean, obviously, we're doing this virtually today, but we have had the benefit of getting to meet
yeah,
in real life a few months
yeah,
ago, and
yeah.
yeah, I think it's really beneficial just to find out a bit more about someone, but yeah, to see the whites of their eyes, and that it tends to help, doesn't it? I think.
Yeah, exactly. It
Yeah,
really, really does. It really does,
yeah,
because that's how as human beings we connect. We don't just
yeah,
connect like this. We connect.
yeah.
We connect physically. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And I
yeah.
think you'd be well aware at Murdoch, for younger members of the team that at home who don't necessarily have loads of space, like and learning from colleagues and just that piece of it. It's important, isn't it, to have people
Yeah, yeah,
together
yeah.
just
The
to kind of work together.
Yeah, the interaction is
Mm,
really important, rather
mm,
than just sending a message in Teams or Slack or whatever it is that you're
yeah,
using as a business, and waiting. eagerly for that response if you need it, you
Mm.
know. Actually just having someone opposite you on, you know, in a row of desks and being able to say, hey, can you help me with this please?
Yeah.
Yes, okay, great. You know, that is vital. And also, who really wants to work at their kitchen table, you know? Like,
No.
it you don't get that separation between
Yeah.
work and life, you know,
Totally.
really. Then, you know,
Totally.
yeah,
And it's
yeah.
the efficiencies of just, you know, rather than having to send a dozen messages, if someone's right there to say, could you help me with this, or what's the answer to that? Yeah, those things
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah, yeah,
it's a
yeah. By
time
the way,
saver.
for anyone watching or listening, it is okay to also do that as well if you like it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. Yeah. Well,
I don't want to become an enemy of the people by saying that working from home is not good.
no, exactly, and like all things, you know, there's a balance to be struck, and for
Yeah.
sure, you know, if you as a boss of a business, it'd be quite difficult now to sort of instruct everyone to come in every day because people have got used to a different way of working now, haven't they?
Yeah,
This sort of
yeah, yeah,
balance. But
exactly. Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly.
um, you as a CEO, you're an openly gay CEO,
Yep.
and there isn't. I mean, I might be missing it, but I don't sort of read about many openly gay CEOs. Is it? Do you feel like you're sort of being a pioneer out there? What do you think's holding people back from
I don't, I,
from being more honest about it? You know, is there an impediment to doing so? Like,
I
what have you
don't.
found?
Let me tell you, right. So
Yeah,
first and foremost, I don't think I don't think there needs to be a whole movement around being like,
gay CEOs
but
club.
yeah, I mean, you know, I mean, it might be a small club, but I think so. First and foremost, I wouldn't say I campaign as such, or you know, but I do speak a lot in relation to the LGBTQI plus community, and you know, on so many other subjects
Mm,
around that. And particularly when you can see there is an impact, negative or positive, in the workplace, it's
mm,
important for me and actually any leader to speak out and say, well, no, actually, that's my experience as well. And we need to put a stop to that because it's bad practice or whatever.
yeah,
I'm not by any means, I'm not, you know, I'm not flying the flag day in, day out. I'm just Graham, I'm just this CEO, and I just happen to be gay. You know, like, you
yeah.
know, and sorry, I just said I'm just the CEO, but I mean, you know, like, but
I know what you
but
mean. Yeah,
but, but
but it's also
it's
not having to. You're not having to sort of shield anything away, though, and that must be kind of liberating that you can be your authentic self.
yes, and so I was late to the party, coming out late, right?
Right. Right.
So for me, speaking my truth, living my truth is, you know, is really uppermost in everything,
Yes.
everything, and you know, in every a lot of conversations often end up with me not preaching, but you know, like really, really, really kind of educating. That's what I wanted, not preaching, but
Yeah. Yeah.
educating. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
So
you were in a heterosexual relationship first. That's right,
yeah,
isn't it? Yeah.
yeah. I was, yeah, yeah. For 22 years, have a daughter. Have say this quietly. Have grandchildren as well now. But you know, I was born in an era, which I believe we share. I've got a few more years on you though, Hayden. I
Probably.
think
I don't
so.
know. 70. I'm born in 73.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was born in 70.
Same
Mm-hmm.
vintage. Yeah.
Yeah, oh, absolutely the best vintage. So, yeah, so I think, you know, we were born into a world where, you know, there were, I think I've said this before, but there were like two gay TV icons. One was Larry Grayson,
Yeah.
and the other one was John Inman from Are You Being Served? I
Yeah.
mean, so and if any of the viewers and listeners are not aware of who they are, please do look them up because that's the example we had of
Yeah.
being gay back
and
in the
and as you
70s.
say, that was a very specific kind of. It was camp, wasn't it? But it was the acceptable face of that on sort of mainstream TV. And I
Yeah,
certainly, as growing up, that I didn't really
yeah, yeah. I mean,
encounter any other kind of gay people,
no, exactly. And I, you know, I
and
actually
they were certainly
remember.
there.
Yeah, they were there, but I
Of course,
mean,
they were.
I remember, my nan loving both those characters, both Larry Grayson and John Inman,
Mm.
right? And, belly laughing, crying, with laughter. But she would be so homophobic as well.
Mm.
So you kind of like, the balance there was kind of like
Yeah.
way off,
Yeah.
way,
Yeah.
way off. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Somehow they were, the acceptable face of it,
Yeah,
weren't they? This kind of
yeah.
benign, unthreatening element to it, wasn't there?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly,
I
exactly,
suppose, like, you've
exactly.
got a screen in, as a, I don't know, like it makes a difference, doesn't it? It's there, the behind the TV screen.
Yeah, and it was always kind of, everything was always kind of tongue in cheek and a bit cheeky. So it was kind of like,
Mm.
oh, that's allowed. And it's like,
Mm.
oh, really? Come on. So yeah, so look, I don't necessarily, I mean, I love the fact that, I can say, yes, I'm a CEO, and yes, I'm gay. Is it really related in what I do? Does it affect my day to day? No, not really.
Mm.
I can talk on certain subjects, absolutely, but it doesn't really, my choices, my gender, who I am,
Mm.
does not reflect my working life. It's just actually quite freeing to say, yes, I am a CEO, and yes,
Yeah.
I'm gay, and show me the other CEOs that are out there that, that are or not. I don't know. I mean, we don't really need to. Do we need to now? Do we need to identify ourselves? I don't believe we do. I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, you'd have to tell me. Yeah, like you say, it's in some ways you sort of think, well, should it be a conversation we have to have anymore? But maybe clearly it is, because I don't know. There's it's yeah. I feel cautious in speaking of it, because it's not a world that I've have direct experience of. But I think, but I think also with working in a barbershop brand, has it played a part in terms of making Murdock in particular a kind of welcoming space for LGBTQI plus? Is that something that you try to engender and make it that kind of space? Is that something?
Um, Look,
Because
it's
what about barbershops in general? Do you think there's some sort of quite sort of heteronormative stuff to that, or?
there are. I think you talk to any number of barbers, either who are part of a like a chain or
Mm.
brand, or who are sole trader owners, who've got a small team, and and I'm pretty certain of this. The majority of them, there are always a few that that are kind of a bit, let's say, over there in the distance.
Mm.
But pretty much the whole industry is so welcoming for all.
Yeah.
In Murdoch, I can honestly say that the barbers that we have are younger generation anyway. They're a lot younger than me, and they're just super, super, super accepting.
Yeah.
And we don't just cut. We do actually cut uh, female hair as well if it's
Mm.
short, right?
Yeah.
So because actually going to a barber for a long haircut
Yeah.
doesn't really make sense.
Yeah.
But so we do cater for all genders, and we cater for everyone. Is it a direction that I'm fighting for? We don't really have to be honest with
Mm.
you, because it is super welcoming. The talk isn't always about football. I mean, it can be whatever you want,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and that I have to be honest with you, our guys are phenomenal when it comes to what might have been considered or perceived a few years ago as awkward conversations, or that they're very, very good, and not
Yeah.
forgetting they're all mental health first aid trained. So yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah. It's conversations I had with Miles a while ago. Yeah, exactly. And that
yeah,
thing of, as you say, I would feel, having been to Murdoch, I feel comfortable that the conversations I want to have, I would be happy to have it. Yeah, as you say, it doesn't have
yeah,
to be, oh, I can only talk about beer and football or whatever. Like, of course, they're all smart people that are led by the
yeah,
customer in the chair, and
yeah,
as you say, all
yeah.
that important work that they've done around being mental health advocates, and yeah, it is it does feel like a safe space, but Murdoch have been very intentional about that and saying, look, we have our barbers are trained to listen to you, which in itself must be quite, it does require training because it could be quite a burden, right?
It's quite, yeah, but I mean, it's quite, I think of it as being quite progressive, if I'm
Oh,
honest
it
with you.
is.
And
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting. I had a conversation with a young barber, like he's relatively new to the industry.
Mm.
And he said to me, "Why does it matter what you like in bed? Like if you're coming
Mm.
for a haircut, like
Totally.
why does it matter? So
Yeah.
long as we're not all like, ugh, ugh, do you see the match? What about that bird outside? All those. I mean, really, none of
Yeah.
that happens, by the way.
Yeah.
But it's really. I think it's just really important to have like an open and freeing environment to go in that you can sit and you can either lay out your life
Yeah.
for 45 minutes
Or
or
not, or say
or
nothing.
not.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Well, I've definitely found that to be the case, and yeah, a very
Good.
welcoming space at
Yeah,
Murdoch
good,
and at the various branches.
good.
Graham, tell me about the name of the podcast being "Man in the Mirror." What you think about when you look in the mirror when you're doing your twin cleanse in the morning and your
Wow. Thank
Korean.
you.
What's your impression of what looks back at you?
Getting old is hard work.
Yeah.
So I mean, I've worked um, in the personal care industry, and more importantly, skincare and how people look, and and all the rest of it. And I've heard some behind the scenes. I've heard some horrendous things being said about older folk in the
Mm,
in the skincare industry,
yeah.
which is actually really really mean. There is I think still a lot of ageism
Yeah.
in personal care. Not certainly not now, and not with Murdoch at all.
But
But
does
I
working in skincare and having done that through your career, do you think that adds an extra level of pressure or
yeah,
scrutiny, perhaps?
absolutely. Listen, I was horrendously bullied when I was at school for one particular feature,
Oh, really?
and yeah. But that and being a little bit camp as well. The two are
Mm,
a double whammy, really. A large nose and a little bit camp is interesting.
yeah.
So I have I have the scars, to internally. I have
Yes.
the
Yeah.
scars to that unfortunately have um they kind of, when I look in the mirror, sometimes I don't always like what I see.
Mm,
And I've had my diagnosis for dysmorphia, and I'm
have you?
working on that with
Yeah.
a therapist now, because there was one time where I would only look in a very small mirror, by the front door, and then all other mirrors I would avoid like the plague,
Right.
absolutely.
Some of those ripples that come from childhood that stay with us. Some of the comments. It's hard to let that stuff go, isn't it?
It really really is. I think the bullying is, and it's part of how we grow up in society, unfortunately, and it's an unfortunate thing, but bullying is such a hard thing, and it
Mm,
leaves very very deep scars,
mm,
and it takes a lot to unlearn those feelings about
yes.
yourself.
Yes.
It really really does. And I try very very hard now to not see what I was seeing before.
Mm,
I kind of did my, I think I might have dysmorphia. What does it look like? How does it, how do you deal with it? And it's all talking therapy, but
right. Have you found
it's
that helpful then?
yeah, I have really. It brings up a lot of kind of questions about what one has been through to get to that point,
Mm.
but also like the coping mechanisms around it and kind of how you deal with it are fascinating to me.
Mm.
And it's been really, really helpful because there was a time, not that long ago, where I would really, really not enjoy being on a screen at all, not in the
Mm.
slightest. Yeah, yeah.
But you feel like you're in a better place with that now.
Yeah, I do actually. Yeah, 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 absolutely. Yeah, much, much better place now. Much better. So when I look in the mirror now, I still might just pick out my flaws, if I'm
Mm.
honest.
Mm.
But I actually see I'm feeling better, I think, about how who I see in the mirror,
Yeah.
really. I see a much more positive soul around my own person, if you like.
That's really good to hear.
Yeah.
Finally, Graham, what are the things that make you happy, bring you joy?
I think probably I I actually quite like being isolated. So I'm at
Do
home right
you?
now, right?
Mm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I sometimes I like my own company an awful lot. It makes me very happy.
Mm.
So I could be watching some rubbish on Netflix or just sitting and actually reading a book, because
Yeah.
there are some people still in the world that do read books, I think. I don't know,
Yeah.
but
It's not
yeah.
just you.
Yeah.
It's true though. It's a dying
Yeah.
art, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, it really, really is. So, reading a book, going for long walks with my partner. We live in Surrey, so there's some beautiful places to
Yeah.
go walking. That makes me happy, and I think also, with quite a wide circle of friends, so seeing other people's success in life, right?
Mm.
Getting through life sometimes, it
Yeah.
can be
Yeah.
tricky.
Yeah.
But when people are really, really successful, when they've really, really, well, like looking at other people's success makes me so happy, particularly if I've worked with them or they're
Mm.
part of our network of friends. That's really, that gives me such joy.
That's a really nice quality because yeah, the opposite is horrible, isn't it? Wanting people to not do well, but you realize that other people's success doesn't impinge on you. It just brings extra joy, doesn't it? It should be
Yeah.
obvious, really. It's not like there's a finite amount of joy, and if they've got it, you haven't got it.
Yeah.
There's plenty to go around, isn't
I mean, exactly, and why not?
it? Mm.
It should be celebrated. These
Yeah,
things should be celebrated, and we don't celebrate other people's successes
yeah,
as much as we should. Anywhere near, I don't think, really. Yeah,
I agree.
yeah.
Graham, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure to spend some time with you this morning, and your beautiful house plant in behind you.
Yeah,
It's tropical.
likewise.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you
well,
so
we
much. I'm going
no
to
problem.
I'm going to put all the links to the products you mentioned so that people can go and check them out, and of course that they can check out the Murdock range and either book in if they're anywhere near London to book in for a service, or certainly look at the colognes and all the brilliant products that you do. But I really appreciate your time, and I'll see you again very soon.
Thank you so much. Have a great day. See you
Thanks,
soon.
Graham. Take care.
Cheers. Bye.